Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
Hello, I'm Chad Gill. I'm the host of the Get the Intel podcast, where I talk with leaders in contracting, management, and really anyone helping us do business better. This episode is brought to you by Workforce Recon. Workforce Recon is a project tracking software that connects the office to the field crews. Their app Field Recon is built with a field-first mentality, developed by contractors for contractors. It includes time and asset tracking, messaging, job site documentation, and scheduling all in one place so you can find out what's going on in the field. So if you're tired of finding out what happened days later, check us out at workforcerecon.com and see your operations in real time. So joining me today is Calvin Johnson. Calvin is a lifelong entrepreneur who recently sold his latest company to a Fortune 500 company and is currently involved, as all of these serial entrepreneurs are, multiple other businesses, including the Culture Kitchen, which promotes workplace happiness and states that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So what's on the menu? Which I am interested to find that out. So Calvin, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And anxious to kind of hear kind of what you're doing.
All right, Chad. Yeah, glad to be here.
So Culture Kitchen, so you started out using with the company Licky. I hope I'm saying that right.
It's a Likey. So Likey is a play on the Danish word for happiness. And so, prior to that, I had a different name, but we decided to go through a rebranding. It used to be called Cost Less Express, cheap and fast, right? So, and the more I got involved in culture and understanding about happiness in the workplace, and I really had a lot of passion for it, we decided to do a rebranding. And man, I get to get into a whole story about rebranding. But anyways, we settled on Likey, which is a play on the Danish word for happiness.
Yeah, that's a whole lot better because there's a lot of bad connotation with Licky. I wasn't sure where we were headed there.
It's funny too because it was like I thought it was going to be the worst decision ever, because when we picked it, people started saying Licky and Likey and what does it mean? And what we taught our staff too is it actually was a door opener to talk about culture, and saying, oh, it's Licky. No, it's actually Likey, and it's a play on the Danish word for happiness. And why it's important to us is culture is important in our business and our mission, vision, values, and so right down to we would teach that right from day one with anybody that we would hire. That became part of a conversation that we could have with either other staff or our customers. Right.
That's interesting. My coaching business is called Laminin, which is very similar reasoning. Laminin ties back to my faith, for one, if you want to go that direction, but it's also a connecting protein. And so it allows me to kind of go either direction with a client, depending on which one they're most comfortable.
Yeah, it's just a door opener. It's great. Yeah.
It's fun. I love it. And it's a great way to do it. So were you there for, so rebranding? I guess we're going to have to ask just what made you decide to rebrand? I mean, obviously to get away from cheap and fast.
It all, so it was about 7, 8 years ago. And just like any entrepreneur, you go through all those trials and tribulations. I was probably one of the worst managers when I was young. I started the company when I was 20, right? So, and had a few different businesses, but you kind of just live and learn. And what I realized over time is, every business is just a people business. It's a bunch of people under a roof doing something, whether it's banking or concrete or whatever. It's just a bunch of people. Right. And the more you realize that you're only as successful as your people, then I changed into more of a servant leadership role, where I realized that my job as a CEO was about building great people and letting them do what they do best. And so, of course, that's just another terminology for culture and how you create a safe working environment and help promote people and have fun on the job and create a bigger purpose of why you're coming to work every day. So as I started learning more and more about that, and I got really excited about it, then the branding was just a kind of an offshoot of some of the things that we were doing inside the business.
Kind of one of those times to say, if I'd known then, you're like, well, now I know, so I can do it.
Yeah, just same as you, right? Now you want to coach, and you just want to share. You can, every entrepreneur, learns so much over time, and whether you're a mentor or something, and you get to see the mistakes either they're about to make, or they're in the middle of making, or they're really frustrated, and being a coach sometimes is a lot of fun because you can just kind of steer them in a different direction or shine some light, and they can be really successful.
It's great. I love it. There was some story I heard one time about a guy who fell in a hole, and he's stuck in a hole, and he's like yelling for help, and all of a sudden this guy looks down in there. He's like, hey, help me. He goes, and so the guy jumps in the hole with him. He's like, oh my God, what did you jump in here for? I can't get out. You can't get out. He goes, no, it's okay. I've been here before. I know how to get out. Here, follow me. And he's like, that was what he saw as mentoring and coaching and stuff. And he's like, he goes, and if you stick with me, we can avoid the next hole because that one's even deeper.
Exactly. Exactly.
Got to try to blend it. But so culture, I will admit, culture is one of those things where you're like, okay, I know culture is super important, but I'm really busy, and culture sounds expensive or soft or not real,
touchy-feely and everything. Yeah.
It's like a lot of trust falls, and I don't know about this. Is that the culture? I mean, I know that's not true because everybody I know who's successful stress culture, but why?
Well, I think there's two interpretations of culture that. So my business was office supplies and office coffee. So my clients, especially in Vancouver, where I'm from, there's tons of software coming. It's basically Silicon Valley of the North. So all the Googles and Microsofts and things, and you'd see the nap rooms, and this is what first got me interested. I thought that creating great culture was kind of a Google campus type environment. And we actually built out our offices to look like a Caribbean beach town. And we had these little huts, and our place was so cool that we would have about 40 tours a year of other companies that would come through. And at first I was just really proud of how cool it looked. Palm trees and, nap rooms and libraries and all that neat stuff. And of course it tied back to our business because we did coffee and fruit, and you'd think that feeding your staff, and that was culture. But the more I started to learn, and especially I went and studied under a guy in Denmark for 3 weeks to kind of get a coaching certificate in culture. And I learned that none of that really matters. It actually detracts you from building a great culture. It is about working with your people, and creating a great safe environment for your people. And it's not touchy-feely. It's all based in science. So anyways, what I learned in the end is it starts with hiring. It starts with promoting your people, having great reviews, all those kind of things. It doesn't really matter if you give them fresh fruit and great coffee. That's a byproduct of it. So does it cost money? It's the absolute opposite. Having a bad culture definitely costs you money. Having a great culture, and it doesn't take much to invest in it. It's just systems and processes, just like anything. That once you build it in and you create the momentum, it's way easier company to run, I tell you.
Well, now you're talking to the engineer in me, because we in engineering school, we weren't known for our ability to make friends and influence people. We were known for process. If you've got and it's the first time I've heard somebody when they're talking about culture, and I guess I have to admit, everybody has culture. You don't have a choice whether you have it or come. You already have it. And the question is it good, bad, or in between?
Nailed it. You nailed it. Everybody has a culture. Is it just good or bad?
So I'm a big fan of having an assistant. I'm like, you either have an assistant or you are an assistant, but that job's being done.
Yeah.
But for culture, same thing. And I get it, because when you lose people, super expensive, very costly emotionally, financially, and things like that. But to have processes and systems and connected to culture, this seems like that's two totally different things. One is not culture and one is, but how do they connect?
Let me give you a great example. Is probably the best way to drive culture is, well, let me take a step back. First, you need to know what culture you want. The culture of a boiler room telephone sales or something. Okay, I mean, that's the culture. That's a different culture than maybe your company. So first, you need to work on your mission, vision, values, purpose, all those things. Who are you and what do you want to be? And then you want to start with your hiring process to make sure you find the right type of people. I mean, every entrepreneur has probably had terrible hires. And usually you can attribute that to, you have a bad hire and then you fire the person. You say, that person didn't fit. It's like, well, that's right. They didn't fit your culture. So once you know what your culture is, then the hiring process, which is 100% systematized. And the book that we took a lot from was called Top Grading.
Oh, yeah.
Top Grading is kind of the Bible, Fortune 5000. I guarantee everybody's using it in some fashion or another. But our culture is all about being fun, as an example. So when we would put our ads out, we would do, day in the life. And it was just the copy was really fun and high, kind of high level. Hey, you sit at your desk, get your coffee, say good morning, high five your friends, and you have huddles and lots of communication and play games and things, right? We would tell people right up front. And then even in the bottom, we'd say, hey, apply today. If you want to go right to the front of the list, send us a video. And so the people that did, they're legendary. Some people would do, hiking with their dog and things like that. And they're like, okay, this person already is going to fit our culture because they're willing to step outside their comfort zone and things. But also when we did interviews, then what do you think one of the first questions we would ask? Hey, did you read our ad? And you saw at the bottom where it said about the video thing. Why didn't you do a video? And right there, you could either you could decide whether you're going to even continue the interview. Oh, my dog ate my phone and I didn't have time and things like, I don't want to step outside my comfort zone and I don't like being on camera. It's like, yeah, okay, you're not going to fit our culture. Thanks a lot.
So why was fun? Like you're in office supplies and coffee and stuff like. Why was fun so important? Is that important for the industry you're in, or does that work in anywhere?
That was just our culture. That was my culture. I wanted to come to work and bounce out of bed and get up in the morning. And every business is a stressful business. We sold over 50,000 products and delivered next business day. So we ran a big distribution center and trucks, and it's all boring stuff, right? Especially, not for me as the owner, but for somebody that I'm trying to get to come and work in our business. It's got to be more than just answering the phone and taking orders for pencils.
You could have a fun law firm. You could have a fun grocery store. You could have a fun. You just have to decide that's what you want.
If that's your culture to be fun, then and so that's why our offices were decorated like a Caribbean beach town, and we. So for us, it was all about fun and also about communication. So we spent a lot of time on, the right to, back to your engineering side, whether you're using Rockefeller habits, for the EO entrepreneur organization, people out there maybe listening, there's a lot of systems in the cadence of how you do meetings and to disseminate information through your business. And that was important to us, not to have too many meetings, but that every day there's the pulse of the business, that everybody knew what was going on. And we always had a challenge when we did our tours and we talked to other companies. We said, one of our goals, and I challenge you at any time if you want, that anybody in our business walking around, you can stop and say, hey, what's going on at Likey right now? And whether you've been there 2 weeks or you've been there 10 years, the last thing that I would want my employees, was important to me in my culture, was for them to say, oh, the hell I know. I don't know. They don't tell me anything here. I just show up to work, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of businesses like that. So our culture was all about, we weren't full open book, but we wanted to make sure everybody felt that they knew what was going on in the business at all times, because there's a lot of stress, right? That's back to culture. And it was an open door that if somebody had a great idea, that they had a way to say it. So every day, everybody was part of a huddle.
And how many employees is this?
At our height, we were in the 40s, so we never broke 50.
Like 40 people in a huddle, the whole team.
No, so we would do our all hands meeting, which is at 10:07 every Monday morning, 10:07. Why do you have meetings at 10:07? Because, then you're not going to be late, right? There's a whole thing about that. It's kind of fun. So that was our big stand-up meeting and Zoom and everything. But outside of that, every department would have just a quick stand-up huddle. What's up? Rocks and opportunities. What am I working on today? And it's usually under 5 minutes. But at least the pulse of the organization is being transmitted every day. So communication, I think, at least part of our culture, was super important.
That's fantastic.
That didn't cost anything.
Yeah, and just everybody being there, just taking a moment to take it. And I think Vern Harnishwell like the most valuable 15 minutes in the day.
Absolutely. So yeah, Rockefeller and Traction, those are like the Bibles, right? And they're all process driven. We moved away from so it's Rockefeller, but what's it called? Yeah, Scaling Up. Got the book right behind me.
Yep.
Scaling Up. So Scaling Up's good, and Traction's just kind of I don't know. I call it a watered down version of Scaling Up, but whatever. I always say, we're big on R&D, rip off and duplicate. So you just take a little bit of everything and make it your own, right? So
that's right.
For our culture, it was bits of top grading. It was bits of a little bit of everything. We kind of mixed it all together and kind of made it our own.
So when you systemize, like when you talk about reviews, like how critical are your reviews? Because man, if there's one thing that people hate doing, it's those one-on-ones, but they're critical.
100%. My son's 18 and he just left a job that he was at for 5 months. That after 2.5 months, he was already trying to tee up for his 3-month review. Obviously, he wants a raise, and he wants to know what he's doing well. And he knew some of that from me, and they postponed it to 5 months, and it was actually just a couple days ago. And after the guy blew off the review 2 or 3 times, they finally got on for a 5-minute phone call review. And he blew through it so fast and didn't really offer any feedback or anything. He said, "Oh, and by the way, no raise right now. We'll just wait and see." And so he decided just to part ways, and he's out, looking for a company that has, a culture. And one of the questions, of course, he's going to ask in his review or in his interview is, am I going to get a 3-month review? What's that going to look like? So I think reviews are so critical all the way along. In my company, I just gave it to our HR person, and whether it was birthdays, significant time, maybe a birth of a child, hey, your kid's 1 year old or something. I mean, I cheated on all that stuff. I just got these emails sent to me all the time. I can't remember any of that stuff. But it made a big difference to recognize not just 3-month reviews or 1 year reviews, but anything that happens with your employees. It's that's a great tip to pass along to especially owners.
Oh, gotcha. Why are people so reluctant to do quarterly? I mean, I know I've heard I'm not good at them. I don't know how to do them. Every time I sit with my employees, they're going to want a raise. I hear a lot of stuff.
I hear it.
What are the big things you hear?
Yeah, you're 100% right. That in the past, I always thought I would avoid it too. I wasn't the greatest manager. It's like if I sit down with somebody, it's just an opportunity for them to want more money. Right. And sometimes bad managers too. Then say, well, I'll make sure to tear them down, which is the worst thing you could do in a review, right? Okay, well, I'll tear them down a notch, and then they're not going to ask for a raise or something. So what we had developed, kind of taken a little bit from top grading, is we just had kind of it was a little bit from that, and I took some from Zappos, if anybody's heard of Zappos. One of the, I don't know, look up Zappos anyways. So what we had that made reviews super easy, and anybody at any level can do it. Doesn't have to be a senior manager. It's just it was about 6 or 7 pages long. It just had a bunch of questions. Anyways, what I would do is say, hey, Chad, your review's coming up. Check mark, because then, I'm going to beat you to the punch, right? And you're like, oh, God, it is coming up. Say, okay, so in 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have a review on this day at this time. Here's a kind of a form to fill out. So I want you to grade yourself on these questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well did you do on this? Bunch of questions. You fill everything. So you do this in your own time. And then you might say, well, why can't we just wait? And you say, because I want you to have a clear head. I want you to really think about this instead of me just bombarding you with questions. And then send that to me before the review. I'll have a look at it, but I'm also going to score you too. Anyways, at the end of the sheets is really just a score on a scale of, say, 1 out of 100. Now, if you scored yourself an 85 and I scored you a 20, we're probably going to dig a lot deeper and find out, hey, why are we so far off? But if in general, throughout the whole thing, it's broken down into, it's very systematized. You probably really like it. It's saying, hey, we both agree that you're really strong in this area and really weak in this area. And then at the end of the review is just some spots to say, okay, what are we going to do over the next 3, 6, 12 months to improve those weak areas? And how can I support you? How can the company support you to move you up? And it's pretty painless, and so it's worked out really well for us when we did it.
And then you got to follow through, which that's easier though, really, because you know how to do that, or at least you can figure out it's that getting over that initial hump of. I like the idea of sending it to them first, kind of disarm them. Like, hey, you don't have to come in angry. You can just fill this out and we can talk. And I think that's a great way to handle it. We'll be Googling those Zappos reviews here soon.
Yeah. So, back to happiness in the workplace, science shows that people that have very strong career pathing, and are going to be way happier. And sometimes too, we've had people that just outgrew us. And we were kind of proud of that in a way that, you hire some whip smart people. And I mean, we have a business to run. We have certain budgets and things. And so if we have like a marketing girl or something, and she's like on a path, and maybe she's going to go out on her own, or she just outgrew us. But we always, we always supported people like that, saying, hey, if I can keep you here for 2 or 3 years, that's great. And I know you're probably going to outgrow us too, right? You're 22 and you're going to school all the time. We'll help you put you through school if you kind of stick with us. But in the end, sometimes you outgrow people. And that was really hard too, because I always thought, people were maybe stabbing us in the back and things. But you have a kind of a shift of mind and saying, people aren't going to stay. I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the owner, I'm going to be there. But, staff is going to rotate through. So make sure that their time with you is great, and they enjoy it and you enjoy it, and they maximize their contribution, and hopefully everybody leaves on good terms instead of the dreaded, reviews and we have to fire them or demote them or things. Oh my God, the stress from that is just terrible.
Well, yeah, and I think I think people forget too. It's I've dealt with business owners who are saying, why do I have to pay them more? I'm the one that gave them the skills. I paid for them to get these skills, and now I got to pay them because they have them. You're like, well, yes, but that's kind of but you never know where it's going to go. You don't know who's going to stay. You don't know who's going to promote, and you also don't know when they go to the next place what they do for you there. Not that you should do it for that reason. You do it because it's the right thing. Somebody did it for us, and you should do it for them.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time on culture, and I've worked with a lot of other companies, and one of the biggest challenges is that sometimes the staff don't understand how good they got it. So,
well, what do you do when you get to? That was the question. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's how do you fight in this? I don't want to be the old guy, but I think my age is saying I'm going to have to be at some point. But where you get to this, you're just you're not entitled to all the things you think you're entitled to, and sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow for some people.
It's sometimes people just got to go out, whether it's a personal relationship, right, or a relationship through work, that sometimes you just got to go out and experience the world. When we sold our business, we negotiated, anybody that did want a job was able to move over to this Fortune 500, and not to knock them, but we were a pretty high functioning culture, and so them moving over, they're a small fish in a big pond, and hundreds of employees, and many of them have left now because they said, hey, this isn't like Likey. Maybe the pay is a little bit better, but I want to go out and find another Likey. When are you guys going to open up your next business or something, right? But when these are the employees that moved on, and I'm like, oh, geez, I didn't think you guys even cared, right? I mean, people would complain about the coffee, and people would be, like, as much as we tried to do for culture, we didn't even think sometimes people appreciated it, so it's kind of nice now they left and they're like, gee, I never knew how good I had it there. Right? So the sweet spot, I think, is mid to, kind of that mid size, 20 to maybe 100 employees or something like that, that I think can really drive exceptional culture. If you get into the multi-hundred employees, it's hard to know everybody. If it's too small, sometimes you can, but it might be a little bit harder to really build a high functioning culture that sticks long term. So businesses are in that sweet spot. I think have a big advantage over the big companies. It's not all about pay, right? Studies show that anything over about 75, 80, 90,000 a year doesn't make you any happier. So people are looking for other things like purpose. We had a charity arm that we just built called Likey for Good, and we did a lot of charity type stuff, and we really drove that our purpose was delivering safe, clean drinking water and food to food programs in Nicaragua and building homes and things. And we talked about that with our staff, and they really got behind it, or came on trips and saw the pictures of the kids that we were helping. So it wasn't about pens and pencils. It was about how we can, do some good with our business too.
That's great. So Culture Kitchen now, that's what you're doing. And that is are you a culture consulting group? Is that the right thing? Is that the right description?
Yeah, the two projects I'm working on now is so the Culture Kitchen, so happiness in the workplace type stuff. I just everything that kind of came out of Likey, so I kind of do that on the side. But really the big project that I'm working on is called Club Need, clubneed.org. So it started out as an adventure travel company to take people down to Nicaragua. Most of the stuff that we were doing was in Nicaragua, building homes and things. And when we would do these tours, we had this big wall of our Likey for Good, and we would show people all these pictures. And before you know it, these companies are saying, well, I want to come. I want to do that. How do I implement something grassroots like this in my business? So it kind of has started to morph now that I've sold my other company from an adventure travel company into helping companies create grassroots giving plans, where they might have the money and they're trying to donate something. But they want to see a significant impact. So we've got these projects that we're doing. We're not a charity, but we're kind of a middleman where we help companies that are looking to donate and put them together with projects that we've physically been to. And then the travel arm comes in where they would come down and visit too. So.
That's Club Need. So I like that. It's what is it, 1-star travel with a 5-star kicker? Is that correct?
Yeah. When we would go down and work in these garbage dumps and things like that, it was pretty depressing. So we thought we better add. Nicaragua is a pretty cool country, so we thought we better add some lux to it on the end. So.
Yeah, that's right. I think I took my family on a mission trip to Costa Rica, and I think we spent about 10 days building a church. And it's funny. I have a concrete grinding and polishing company. That is the last time I poured concrete was by 5-gallon bucket in Costa Rica.
Nice.
We don't even pour concrete here. And then after that, we went from that to like a 4 or 5-star resort. And I was like, well, we're doing okay. So
yeah, exactly. The dichotomy between the two really brings some impact.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. And I don't know how much better the second place seemed because of how rough the first place was. So that was always nice too.
Right. So I'll give you an example. So this is my big focus now. So there's a construction company, about $20 million construction company, and they saw what we were doing, and they were looking for something to create purpose in their business. And this does drive back to your hiring policies and working with your current staff. And so it's something bigger than just construction or concrete or whatever. So they were looking for something with purpose that they could share with their staff. So we helped them build that out, and I came and talked to them and showed them. But then he wanted, before he started donating, donating any money. He wanted to come down, so he brought his 17-year-old daughter with him. And 17-year-old daughters are sometimes a little bit of a challenge at that time, and they were a little bit estranged, sort of. So the two of them came on this trip, and they're wealthy, and they've been on all the trips everywhere in the world. And it turned out to be the best trip they'd ever been on. They were bonded closer than ever. And there he is, right in there with he brought his tool belt with him, and he's hammering nails. So, he's the CEO of his company. So just like you, pouring concrete, right? And he's right in there hammering these nails. And I just remember the one comment he said, if I could just take these guys here, how hard these guys work for like nothing, $20 a day. Normally it's $5 a day. We were paying $25 a day. He said, these guys like outwork all my crew like 10 times over. If I could just bottle these guys and bring them back. So,
oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It's good. Yeah. Man, that's fantastic. I love what you're doing. That's Club Need.
Clubneed.org.
Clubneed.org. So we'll make sure that we link to that in the podcast description, and as well as the Culture Kitchen and those kind of things too. But man, that's great. I really appreciate it. And if anything, I hope our people pick up on the whole. I think the review thing is very key, and the fact that you already got a culture, but you just have to choose what you want it to be and move that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll shoot you over the one that we used, and we can get on a call, kind of walk you through how we did it. It's a pretty turnkey for you. It might work for you.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you it's going to be better than what I'm using. So I'll be looking for it. I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Calvin. I really appreciate your time today, and we'll definitely be catching up soon about that review process.
All right, Chad, sounds great. And shout out to Emily, your assistant. She's fantastic.
Oh gosh, stop that, dude. Everybody keeps trying to hire Emily. I'm telling you, they'll never keep this poor person.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.